Hello everyone, T-Voss Animations here. It still feels weird to actually say an intro for this channel, but this won't be your average animation video. I've decided to help with the fact that my channel is dead usually, and animations take time, in order to make sure it doesn't just die every time I take a little too long working on an animation. There still will be something to watch, so I'm planning to do some other art-related videos. Like this one. Anyone who's in the art community has probably heard of Inktober or other October challenges. These usually consist of a list of prompts, and depending on those prompts, you make drawings about them. I've been wanting to do one for a while now, but just haven't gotten around to it. Every time I would be busy with something else, October would come along, and midway through October I would see a October challenge drawing and be like, oh right, that exists. Well, guess I'll do it next year. Repeat for the next year. This time, however, was different, and I was actually able to catch myself on time and prepare to do OC-Tober. Since the Inktober list was a little vague, I decided to go for OC-Tober instead. Because, I love my little guys, and any excuse to draw them more is good. I did find a more official OC-Tober with its own website, and the prompts for that were really in-depth, and I thought that's a little too hard. So instead I ended up going for the first result that popped up when I searched for OC-Tober 2025, that being the prompt list by user Chalky Duster on Instagram. Looking through these prompts, there were some fun ones in there, some challenging ones, and some ones that I actually ended up not doing at all. So let's get into it and see how my first run of a October art challenge went. The first prompt was favorite or main OC. Now, I don't really have a main OC. I guess you could call the little avatar I've made for myself my main OC or egg, but I don't really consider that in such a way, so instead I ended up going for my favorite OC, which was an equally hard question because how am I supposed to choose? In the end, I ended up going for, surprise surprise to probably no one, Millie. Millie is and always will be one of my favorite characters when I hold very dear to my heart. So obviously I decided to draw her to kick off this challenge run. Just a pretty simple drawing. I also decided that all of these drawings would be the same in terms of their specifications, for the lack of a better term. All will be drawn in a 1000 by 1000 pixel canvas with just black and white, black outlines, one singular color gray for the shading, and a gradient for the background. The second prompt was onesies. At first, I thought of drawing myself in a cat onesie because I am a certified cat boy, but I don't really know if myself counts as an OC because, there's a fictional version. This is the problem with self-inserts. But then I got the idea for the actual drawing that you're being shown the speed paint of right now, and that's drawing some characters from the Scrap War, as to be more specific, the Duck Civilization Armored Forces, wearing a duck onesie. Well, one of them wearing a duck onesie, that of course being Fuzzy, because I feel he is silly enough to do something like this. Nigel, absolutely not. He wouldn't be caught dead wearing a onesie. Fuzzy, what in God's name are you doing? Quack! Prompt number 3, we are absolutely speeding through this. Prompt number 3 was in your clothes. As you can see, we also have the first sighting of the beloved Clip Studio Paint 3D models that I use for reference sometimes. These will appear a couple of times more. But yeah, in my clothes, which was an interesting prompt to say the least. I have drawn some of my characters with switched outfits or wearing my clothes, and I've actually also kind of done the opposite. I've gone out of my way to buy clothing, which I'm like, oh, this is like the outfit that insert OC wears. Or clothing of my OCs is based on clothing I own. Now, of course, the big problem with drawing my OCs in my clothing is most of them are really, really fucking tall. It's not really saying that I'm short per se, just that for some reason, 9 out of 10 characters I make have to be taller than me. The some reason being that I find tall people attractive. So, naturally, a tall, curvy lady like Sonica trying to wear the clothes of a scrawny, skinny man like me, it's not gonna be a perfect fit. Those astute among you might notice that the clothes I put on Sonica aren't the clothes my character usually wears. I took the prompt quite literal and just drew Sonica in the clothes I was wearing at the time that I was drawing this. Anyways, speaking of clothes, a lot of these are outfit related. Time for prompt number 4, beach clothes. And here is the first appearance of Nico, the other highly beloved by me OC. Back when I was deciding which OC would be my favorite to draw for the first prompt, it was a freeway tie between Millie, Nico, and Egg. We will get to Egg, don't worry, they will appear eventually. I'm kind of ashamed at how little drawings they actually ended up appearing in, but I mean, Egg isn't the most interesting to draw, so it makes sense that for a drawing challenge you would draw your more complex characters. I had to kind of actually look up what kind of beach clothing existed, because when I think beach clothing, I think of just like swimming trunks and bikinis. I'm not gonna draw Nico in a bikini. There actually are a handful of summer/beach clothes I designed for my characters. A while ago, I had plans to make a literal beach episode. There's still a loose draft of it floating around somewhere on my hard drive. They do still have a plan for a different summer beach episode, but that one's just gonna feature the Scrap War gang and not any of the other characters. This would have been kind of everyone is here, like the beach episode drawing I made around the same time, and some of my very early animations, which were just a crossover between all of the things I had created at the time. Anyways, this one does actually also have a little bit of a background to show that Nico is in fact wearing beach clothing, that being like a button-up shirt and some swimming trunks at the beach. Number 5, OC ship. And we were just at the beach and there was a boat, but this is different. I also forgot to record the time-lapse for this properly, so sorry about that. Anyways, it's everybody's favorite lesbian couple, that being Sonica and Shady. I say favorite, but the fact is it's probably no one's favorite because nobody's actually seen it before. It had like a hint in one of my animations. A lot of things I have planned and like lore and stuff that I've yet to actually show in action. Of course, if you want to talk about shipping OCs and stuff, you can't ignore the very obvious die throuple. But I kind of thought that was too obvious, and I love these two silly goobers. They are very cute together. One is just teasing but sweet extrovert. The other is a sad, traumatized mess, but she pulls through it because she loves her girlfriend that much. I also wondered if it's still considered shipping, considering this relationship is canon to my lore, but shipping is just usually talked about in a fan context. But I mean, yeah, if a creator puts two characters together in a relationship, technically they are shipping them, so yeah, I'm pretty sure this does count. Number 6, formal clothes. It's once again Millie. Big surprise. We're going to see Millie, Sonica, and Nico a lot. I'm just gonna spoil that for you all. Now, formal clothes is like fancy. And as much as part of me wanted to draw Sonica in a big fancy dress, or even Millie in a big fancy dress, I instead decided to draw Millie in a suit. Because girls in suits are hot. That's all, really. The proportions are a little wacky on this one, I'll confess. But yeah, Millie in suit. That's all. Prompt number 7 was a fun one, that being meme redraw. I struggled a lot trying to find what meme I could redraw, and then I remembered the little girl smiling at the camera while I think a school is burning down in the background. So I decided to draw that with the Scrapboard cast. And with that I mean Charles, because Charles is a little bit of a prankster, a jokester. I don't think he would go this far, but I don't know, I could see him do that. Nigel is standing in front of the building, watching in horror as it burns down. This one was also pretty neat because I got to work with the limitations I set for myself. Mainly the colors. I wanted the fire to, pop out and be bright because it's fire, so that had to be white, but the rest of the background then had to be a darker color. And I only had one tone of gray. So what I ended up doing is using the background gradient as a third color, somewhere in between the gray and the white. And I think it ended up looking pretty good. 10 out of 10 would burn down military buildings again. Prompt number 8 was style swap. Now, looking back, I realized it could have also been style as in clothing style. But I decided to read it as in art style because I do have several art style that I use on different characters. Mainly the Scrap War characters I usually draw in my very simple style, originally made for a animation series that is cancelled, pretty much, in that state at least. And my other characters I usually try to draw in a more detailed anime-inspired style. So I decided to draw Nigel in the more anime-inspired style, and Sonica in the simpler style usually used for Scrap War. Now I do draw Nigel and the other Scrap War characters sometimes in a more detailed style, but never the other way around. Prompt number 9 was Decora. I had no clue what that meant, but looking it up and then looking through the gallery of Chalky Duster, the person who created the prompt list, it made a lot more sense why it was in there. It's this very vibrant, cutesy clothing style, fashion style, which obviously wasn't the easiest to draw with the limitations I set out for myself. Said it would be kind of fun if we played around with the dynamics of the OCs a bit, so I drew Sonica and Shady, with Sonica somehow convincing / forcing Shady to dress up in a Decora style. Shady usually being a lot more broody, and I don't want to say goth or emo, I guess punk is more her style. I don't really know clothing styles or fashion at all, in case you couldn't tell. But yeah, she usually wears dark clothing. Her wardrobe colors consist of black, gray, and red. And as silly as the style is, I don't think Shady is really enjoying this. Sonica's probably laughing her ass off though, so at least someone's having fun. Speaking of fun, it was actually pretty fun to draw this as well. Even if it was a little tricky to come up with all the little pins, hair clips, and stickers to put on her. Next we have prompt number 10, which was OC cosplaying. This actually made me do something which I'd never actually done with my characters, and that's think of what media they consume. Because obviously you gotta cosplay something from something. And I had thought of what games my OCs, or some of my OCs would play, or would enjoy. Like Shady probably plays FPS games, Sonica probably plays a lot of racing games, but not like specific fandoms. And that question is still kind of unanswered, but here we are. Here is Nuxie as Undyne, Miss Spear of Justice from Undertale, and Deltarune, but this is specifically the Undertale version because she's wearing armor and has an eye patch. Now, I don't know if Noxie's not really a gamer in my eyes, but she'd probably enjoy Undertale, and she'd probably really like Undyne. The fact is that this was more just, okay, what characters are alike, for probably pretty obvious reasons. I couldn't pick any Sonic characters, because, like, yeah, they're pretty much already cosplaying as Sonic characters. Probably smart to actually go into the backstory real quick of how these characters were made. A lot of the characters, because they're part of the group Mobius Mission, which was an idea for a comic series that didn't really pan out, but I reused all the characters for my current project because I like them that much. Most of them are inspired or based on Sonic characters. A handful of them started long ago as just simple gender swaps of the Sonic cast, and over time I ended up developing them more into their own characters and giving them different designs, becoming more human. Although they're still Mobians, just in the lore. Mobians aren't little Sonic guys, but humans with cat ears, basically. But yeah, Nuxie is Undyne because, well, Undyne is big strong fish lady. Nuxie is also a big strong lady, not a fish though. And Undyne, at least during her battle, has her hair in a big ponytail, and she has red hair. Nuxie I usually also draw with her hair in a big ponytail, and she also has red hair. So, makes sense. You can probably tell I'm also not the best at drawing armor, but I think I did a decent job for the sake of this challenge. I did change Nuxie's hairstyle up a little bit to make it look more like the hairstyle Undyne has during her date with Alphys. The next prompt was a fun one. Space AU. AU is a term used a lot online referring to alternate universes. So, what would happen if some of my characters existed in a universe in space? Well, for my main series, I felt a little odd, since that's mostly a normal slice of life story, and it already has a few sci-fi elements. I mean, the Mobian characters are Mobians, which are a species of aliens. So instead, I decided to tackle the World War II 1940s universe setting of the Scrap War, but what if it was space-themed, or sci-fi? This choice would later come back to bite me in the ass, but we'll get there. So we've got Nigel, Charles, and Fuzzy, not as the tank crew of a Churchill Mark I, but instead as the leading members of a crew manning the Space Churchill. It probably has a different name in the lore, but it's the tank that they drive, but as a spaceship. And they're not part of the DCAF anymore. Not the Duck Civilization Armored Forces, but the Duck Civilization Space Forces. Or Star Forces. Both work, but I decided to choose Star Forces. But those of you who are paying attention to the numbering might have noticed we skipped prompt 11. Why was that? Well, prompt 11 was with a friend's OC. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and complain like, oh boo-hoo, I don't have any friends. Because that's untrue. But I don't have a lot of artist friends, and the ones I do have don't really have OCs, at least not ones they use often enough for me to know them or know what they look like. So I ended up skipping that one. I will end up skipping a later prompt as well for similar reasons. Anyways, prompt 12 was good. I really like this drawing. Probably one of my favorites that I drew for this challenge. Prompt number 13. Summer Clothes. Surprise, surprise, it's Millie, once again. I wanted to draw her in a cute little summer dress with a big summer hat, ended up being a little harder than I expected, because I don't draw characters in dresses very often, which you might have noticed. All of my female characters usually wear more masculine clothing, and if they wear anything feminine, it's usually just a skirt. And even then, I struggle to draw those. So a dress posed a big challenge. And the summer hat was also not easy because, well, Millie is a Mobian, which, as I mentioned earlier, is basically a human with cat ears, or in her case, fox ears. Big, floofy fox ears, which are hard to put a hat on or around, and it ended up looking kind of tacky and not very good. If I had more time or put more effort into it, I'm pretty sure I could have made this look better, but it's alright. At least the one visible hand doesn't look terrible, so I'll take that as a win. Prompt number 14. Band or idol AU? I ended up going for band because idol is, as far as I'm aware, more... But then again, that's really not my area of expertise. Anyways, here is Sonica in a band with her siblings. Oh boy, I wonder what this could be a reference to. Speaking of references to a certain cartoon, her siblings are in fact canon. They are probably one of, if not the most obvious characters that are based on Sonic characters, because their names are the same. Top artist tip: just steal things. Anyways, within their lore, they were part of a band during their teenage years. However, eventually over time, they all ended up going in different careers anyway. Sonica, as the main character of the series, will spend some time figuring out exactly what to do. Sonia goes into, like, research, scientist bullshit, and Manic actually stays with the whole band idea and later makes his own band separate from the one he had with his siblings. This drawing was also pretty fun with the neat lighting and shading things. The outfits are fun. Good drawing. I enjoy. The guitar looks a little funky though. Prompt number 15. OC plus artist. Reading this prompt back, I could have been interpreted as like a fusion between between yourself and one of your OCs. Instead, I just decided to draw myself with one of my OCs, which isn't really uncommon because, yeah, aforementioned self-insert bullshittery. It's Nico, my beloved. I've drawn myself before with him. Nothing special going on here. Although we are doing some very lewd and unsightly hand-holding. My god. Prompt 16 was an absolute shitpost. The prompt was Mermaid AU, but thinking about my OCs, I couldn't really decide on who or what to draw for that. Like, sure, Sonica is the token sexy woman, but, you know, she is inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog, who famously cannot swim, and Sonica, therefore, can also not swim. She'd make a pretty shit mermaid. So then I was thinking, do I have any characters that do have something with water? And I ended up coming to the Scrap War universe and the Duck Civilization's Navy. Here they are. The Duck Civilization Navy as a bunch of mermen. Well, except for their admiral, who is just very fucking confused and angry at the bullshit happening here. This is just a very silly drawing, and I love it. Just copy-paste posing. Draw me like one of your French fish. This one's great. And it also added a few more characters that I've drawn for this challenge. Characters which I haven't really drawn since I first made them. Prompt number 17. Winter style. I don't know if there was actually a specific style that they were thinking of when making the prompt list, but I drew Sonica in the cold wearing a thick coat, so maybe that counts. I gotta admit, I got a little sidetracked while making this one, drawing more just of a scene that happens to take place in winter than highlighting a character's winter outfit. So here is Sonica standing in the cold after crashing the car. Now, if you know anything about my characters, you might know that Sonica likes cars and likes to drive and is actually a pretty good driver. How did this happen? Well, I was thinking of that as well, so I decided instead of drawing the car that she usually drives, I drew the little shitbox that she drove when first arriving to Earth. And previously, the cars that she drove on Mobius were rear-wheel drive. This thing is front-wheel drive. So while out in the snow, maybe not having a lot of experience driving in the snow as well, she got introduced to the wonderful thing known as understeer and slid into a light post. Don't worry, she's fine though. The car is probably also fine. It's a Toyota, that'll buff out. I mean, it's not like any of these drawings are really canon or need to be, but I'd still like to come up with some sort of lore reason as to how this happened. Remember back at the Space AU that I said this was gonna bite me in the ass? Well, it's here to bite me in the ass. Welcome to prompt number 18, Sci-Fi AU. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, because as soon as I made the Space AU one, I realized my mistake, and I was like, oh god, what am I going to do? But then I realized sci-fi doesn't have to be in space. It usually is, but it doesn't have to be. Sci-fi can also be Big Bobot. So I drew Nigel, Fuzzy, and Charles once again piloting a big robot instead of a tank, defending the city from the horrendous kaiju creatures like this giant duck. I did actually sketch this one out first on paper while at school, and later use that as a baseline for the drawing you see now. I will end up doing this for a couple of other drawings as well, so yeah, pretty neat. Prompt number 19 was school uniform, and yeah, not much to say here. I once again drew Millie, this time in the classic anime schoolgirl uniform. I don't really have a lot to say. Her face is a bit wonky. Again, this is one of those drawings that if I were to sit down and actually take a full day to work on it, I could probably do better rather than an hour or two late in the evening before going to bed. A lot of these I posted late in the evening after I just finished them. But I suppose that's also part of the challenge, trying to draw good or at least decent drawings in the limited amount of time you have. Prompt number 20 was a fun one. OC and fandom char, or character. Now, very obviously, as mentioned before, some of my characters are based on Sonic characters, but I decided to maybe save ideas for that kind of drawing for another day. Instead, I decided to draw the DCAF once more, this time Fuzzy having a nice cup of tea with Darjeeling from the anime Girls in Panzer, because funny British noises. This was actually the first time I drew any of the Girls in Panzer characters. I wouldn't really say I'm part of the Girls in Panzer fandom, but I enjoyed the show, so I thought it would be fun to draw one of the characters, which, like I said, I've never done until now, and I think I did a pretty good job. It was pretty funny, because I like to think the style I usually draw in is like anime inspired, but then you actually pull up like the reference picture, and you see like the proportions, and you're like, oh, that's very, very anime. So it was pretty tricky to see how far I would lean into like Girls in Panzer style and my own style. In the end, I think I ended up doing a bit of a middle ground. Also, of course, Nigel is here, screaming at the scene unfolding from outside of the window of the cafe or wherever these two are sharing a cup of tea. Very confused and angry, because that's what Nigel does best. Screaming in confusion and anger.
Oi, Buzzy! What the hell are you doing? Who's that girl? Why are you two drawing in such detailed art styles while I'm out here looking like shit? Let me in, I've got some very choice words for both of you.
What's 9 plus 10? 21? Here's prompt 21. That being a different hairstyle. Now, Sonica I usually draw with her hair up in a ponytail, as you've probably seen. But what if her hair was loose? And when would her hair be loose? Well, early in the morning when just getting up out of bed. So I drew that. Sonica with getting out of bed hair. I have actually drawn Sonica with loose hair a couple of once, which was also in bed. It's, I think, the only time she really would have her hair loose is when going to bed or like in the shower, but I'm not gonna draw that. I mean, I could, but then I couldn't show it to anyone because I would get banned off of YouTube. Follow me on Newgrounds. That's not a promise. That's not. Shush. There's nothing to say here. This drawing is pretty decent, I'd say. Let's move on. Welcome to the amazing digital. Now, welcome to prompt 22, Circus AU, and we have Sonica once again, but this time as our ringleader because I feel like she would probably suit that role best in a circus. We also have Nuxie lifting big strong weights because, as mentioned before, she is big strong lady. We have Tom being the lion tamer. I think the lion's going to eat him, and Millie's about to get shot out of a cannon. What fun, what great activities will be had here. And we also have Egg on the trapeze. This is the first time Egg appears, and it's upside down on a trapeze. Egg does look like they're having fun though. This is what a joyous creature. I love Egg. Prompt number 23 is actually a sequel to another drawing we made earlier, that being the Decora one. We had Sonica dressing up Shady in a cutesy style, and now we have the opposite with prompt 23 being gothic. So here is Sonica as a goth girl, I guess. Sonica seems to mind this a lot less than Shady did in the cutesy style, and I think Shady likes this a lot as well, and I don't blame her. I really like the outfit I ended up deciding on. This might actually become like a canon outfit Sonica has in her wardrobe. I could see her wearing this to like a Halloween party or something instead of the vampire outfit I've drawn her with in the past. Anyways, yeah, this drawing's good. I enjoy. Prompt 24 was as a different species. So here's Nigel as Egg. This was quite lazy. I'll admit this drawing was very lazy because it's just Egg with a little DCF, a hat, and an angry expression. It's 2 steps removed from Soleg. So yeah. In hindsight, it would have probably been more clever to draw the Duck Civilization trio as ducks, but I ended up doing this instead because this challenge needed more drawings of Egg, so here you go. I'm once again skipping a prompt as we move on to 26 and skip over 25. 25 was style swap with a friend's OC, which I skipped for the same reasons as I skipped prompt 11. So, prompt 26, pajamas. The only character I've ever really drawn in pajamas, and I think pajamas are also part of like one of the concept arts I made for her, is Millie. So here's Millie in her pajamas. Most of my other characters aren't really pajama wearing people. They usually just go to bed with like a t-shirt and like underwear, and that's it. But Millie is a certified pajama enjoyer, and who doesn't enjoy some nice comfy pajamas while going to bed? I sure do. Also, Egg as a plushie in the background because of course that look so cute. Any merch company, please make Egg plushies. I would love that. Any merch company that is desperate for anyone's ideas, contact me, please. I want this to be real. Prompt 27 was as a Miku design. Now, reading this prompt back, you could interpret it as, you know, a Miku design. Miku does wear a lot of different outfits and has different designs depending on the song. You could say that the idea of this prompt was that you make one that's based on one of your OCs. Instead, I drew one of my OCs as a Vocaloid like Hatsune Miku. That being Miko, because his hair is a similar color, and I wanted to draw him again, so here he is. Now there's a lot of different flavors of Vocaloid, and there isn't really a specific style, but this is mostly inspired by the early ones, like Hatsune Miku herself, which I think is pretty clear with the separate sleeves and the jacket and stuff. I'll admit I'm not the most well-versed when it comes to Vocaloid. I have a few Vocaloid songs in my playlist because they do sound good, or they're really fucking silly, like Triple Baka. But yeah, in terms of the art on display here, I actually do really like this one as well. Also, fun fact, the 783 that's on Nico's shoulder, a lot of Vocaloids have numbers, I've noticed, like model numbers. I assume that's what they are. And 783 is actually the birthday of Nico, the 7th of July, 2003. Prompt 28 was an interesting one. Personality swap. This one was hard because I wanted to get two OCs which are very different from each other. But as always, I started overthinking things. Like, where would the personality swap change their lore? Like, from the start? Or like... And also, characters are from different ages and different times and stuff, which also makes things difficult. I did pick two characters from the same universe, that being Millie and Shady, but Millie was born on Mobius a good couple years later than Shady was, and Shady was also born on Earth, and grew up on Earth and had a bunch of stuff happen there, while Millie had a bunch of stuff happen on Mobius. I've decided to not think too much about it, and instead just kind of draw them wearing each other's kind of style of clothing. So Shady has a hairstyle similar to Millie's and wears a hoodie and t-shirt and comfy clothing, while Millie has swooping bangs with colored highlights in her hair and is wearing a leather jacket with some jeans. It's an interesting idea, swapping personalities of your characters, and it might be fun to explore a little more in depth on my own time sometime, but for now this is good enough. Prompt 29, we're in the final stretch basically. Casual clothes. Yeah, this one was pretty easy. Most of the clothes my characters usually wear are their casual clothes, but if you look at what Sonica usually wears, I'm not really sure that's casual clothing. Like, if it's a lazy day, stay indoors kind of day, would she really go and wear that outfit? It's also quite revealing, and you wouldn't wear that if it was colder per se. So here she is with a basic t-shirt and some sweatpants. Prompt number 30 was Game AU. This one was a little hard to come up with at first, because Game AU, is it their story as a video game, or what if they were in a video game? Well, luckily other people were doing the challenge and I was running a little behind, meaning I could look at what other people were doing and be like, okay, that's how you interpret the prompt. And I saw a lot of people drawing their OCs in video games. What if my OC was a Pokemon trainer or something? And again, I was brought up with the question of what kind of games do my characters play, or what games would they fit into? It's like, the scrap war, I couldn't really think of anything. And same goes for the other characters. That's when I remembered I had already kind of done this prompt, that being I made a Deltarune AU based on my characters, or alternate versions of my characters based on Deltarune, whichever way you want to spin it. And I had made a little bit of art for that before, but hey, there's no time like the present, and I thought it would be fun to draw some more art for it. So I drew the infamous moment of Deltarune Chapter 1 when you first encounter Rules Card, the Duke of Puzzles, who challenges you with the great almighty impossible challenge of pushing a block one tile to the side onto a switch. In the Deltarune AU I came up with, I did make a list of characters and who they would switch with for the Deltarune AU, and Rules was Nigel, the commander of puzzles, as he would call himself. So I drew Nigel hitting the classic Rules card pose while in front of the block and switch, with Shady, who is taking the role of Susie, and Fuzzy, who's taking the role of Rousey, watching in amazement, horror. It's up to the viewer's interpretation. And here we are, the final prompt. Prompt 31. Halloween costumes, or just free choice. I ended up picking Halloween costumes because it is the spooky day, and I have drawn several of my characters before in Halloween outfits, so I decided to pick a few which I haven't. Well, except for Millie, who's holding up Egg, both of which I have drawn before, Millie in the witch's outfit and Egg as a spooky ghost. But we also now have Nuxie as some sort of demon devil creature, and Nico as a werewolf because he has wolf ears and a tail, so that makes sense, I guess. Kind of a lazy costume if you ask me, but alright. I was struggling to decide exactly how Nico would dress up as a werewolf because of that reason, so I gave him like a lumberjack shirt that's a little ripped up, and you know, werewolves are usually pretty hairy men when they're in their normal form, so I drew Nico with a mustache and beard, which is very, very cursed. The second Halloween ends, he needs to shave that shit off. Why do you look like that? No, it's wrong. Ugh. It just, it doesn't look right. What have I created? It's probably pretty easy to see that at this point I was kind of done, and I was kind of rushing the art as well. Also partially because I was working on another Halloween project at the same time, that being my dramatic reading of a joke creepypasta my friend made as a sequel to a joke creepypasta me and him made a couple of years back. It's up on my other channel, Toad69500, if you're interested. Speaking of being interested, feel free to go look at these drawings. I was gonna say in person, but that doesn't really work out, on my socials where I posted them while doing the challenge. So my DeviantArt, my Newgrounds, my Instagram, pick your poison. The descriptions of those drawings do also have some other fun facts and things about the art when I made it, which I may have forgotten to mention while making this video. But yeah, this was actually pretty fun. There were some problems here and there. Not all the drawings turned out as good as I hoped for, but I will definitely be giving this another shot next time October rolls around. I'll see what challenge I'll do then. Maybe the more complex OC-Tober, maybe just normal Inktober. Feel free to leave some suggestions if you know any fun October challenges, and I will see you all next time.